Good afternoon, everybody. It is the 15th of December 2023, and it is just gone 12, so it's just the afternoon here in Japan. 15th of December, it's been piecing it down here all day. So I'm inside. Now, what am I doing inside? In the house, in the middle of the day, not at work. I am embracing this pre-freelance life. I've got 3 months left at work now, so I've got all these holidays to get shot of. So I thought, bollocks to you. I've taken Friday off, I've taken Monday off, I've got to go in for an half day on Tuesday, and then I'm off until the 10th of January. And then it's 2.5 months of me not really giving a flying shite anymore. And then I'm going to be into the freelance life, which I've been wanting to do. I haven't had the balls to do because there's mouths to feed, but I've just had that bit of a nudge and I'm going to be back into it. Now, what I'm going to talk to you today is something that I've been sitting on for 2 weeks now. I thought I'd let it stew for a bit before I got into it, but it is something that were quite profound. Something that I first started doing in 1994, but it was certainly something that I did with a lad that were fantastic. Now, 1994, April, 26th of April, 1994. Might have been 95, actually. I think it was 95. So forget everything I've just said. So back end of April 1995, just so we know, just so we're not so precise. I were in Sheffield. I were in Sheffield Arena, and it was the first time I'd ever seen Oasis. I'd got me sent a ticket from Telegraph and Argus, and bus were put on, and we were taken down there. Now, being in Bradford in mid-90s, I didn't have much money, and I'd got myself in this phone queue, and I didn't have enough money in bank to buy 2 tickets, so I just bought myself one. So I ended up having to go down there on my own. So I got myself on bus. We'd met up for bus outside Law Courts, and then we jumped on bus down to Sheffield. Now, I'd been drinking in British Queen, and I thought, I'll have a piss when I get there. I have never, ever in my life wanted to piss more than what I did on that bus down to Sheffield. And I thought to myself, I'll just piss myself. I'll just piss myself. I won't bother with gig. I was wanting to go to the toilet that much. Anyway, I held on. We got down to the car park at Sheffield Arena. I ran off the bus and pissed at the back of the bus. Now, unbeknownst to me, on that same bus were 2 other lads who just lived round the corner from me in Bradford, in Wibsey. They were pissing like race horses as well. And I said to them midstream, I said, look, I'm down here by myself. Shall we go get a pint? Introduced ourselves, and then we went and had some liveness before gig. Went into gig. Now, where our tickets were, there were seats, and we were sort of halfway up a tier, so the stage were off to right of us. So you were having to turn to look at the stage, and I were looking down at the floor where I think ice hockey usually goes on down there. And I thought, fuck this. This is, I think, the first song. I thought, I'm not staying here. I'm not fucking staying here. So I turned to the 2 lads that were with me. I says, do you want to get on the floor? Oh, I don't know about that. I'm not staying there. And I thought, fuck it. So I went down to the floor. I jumped over at barrier. I jumped over another barrier, and I were on the floor. And then the floor was split into 2, so there were more barriers to get further to the front. Oh, for fuck's sake, I should have gone a bit further down. So I said to the security guard, let us over, will you? And he just, well, I'll do what you fucking want. So I jumped over, and then I'm in pit. I'm in main pit, and this were Oasis at the peak. No, it wasn't. It wasn't Oasis at the peak. It were Oasis just before they were going to hit the peak. What's the story? Had just come out, but they were doing stuff from Definitely Maybe, and I think it was the third song in. As I got into the pit, third song finished, Liam Gallagher said, what the fuck's going on? Why is this floor split? Get shut of them barriers. Get shut of them barriers and let everybody come up front. The barriers were shifted, and then I won't say it wasn't a crush, but the energy in the room just upped. I remember that distinct feeling. Once them barriers were got rid of, the tempo, the atmosphere, the whole place, not erupted. You just felt something lift, and then we were on a roll. Went through the whole set. Noel did his acoustic, came back out. They did Don't Look Back in Anger. It was the first time he'd done it live. Now you've got to remember, Sheffield Arena holds between 14 and 16,000, and this was their first major gig, inside gig that they were headlining. They'd never headlined something as big before. I heard an interview after I'd been to that gig, and they were getting shown around Sheffield Arena before the tickets had gone on sale. So Noel was saying, do you think we can fill this place? And then the tickets had gone on sale that morning. It were about 12:30 in the afternoon, and a fella come round and said, just sold out. It had just sold out. The tickets had gone on sale, and within a couple of hours, it had sold out. They could have done a couple of days. So the gig had sold out. Everybody were up for it, the whole thing, and it turned out, as history tells, that were Tony McCarroll's last gig. The drummer of Oasis, it was his last gig. He'd been playing on What's the Story, Morning Glory, and he just wasn't up for the gig. He wasn't up for it. He wasn't a good enough drummer. So they got shut of him. But I'm glad I saw Oasis at their very last gig with the original lineup. I saw them again after. It just didn't seem the same. It just didn't seem the same as that. Although they got Alan Whiting, who was the better drummer, I don't know. That rawness, that chancer vibe had gone out of them. And plus, when I went to the same venue a couple of years later for BA Now, the cocaine and the success just seemed to have taken that hunger away. They were just something different. But anyway, that gig, after it had all finished, the room were clearing. All the not the stands, all the seats that were around in that sort of semicircle, all that were clearing, and we were still on floor. And I were meeting a few people on floor that I'd never met before. Fucking hell, that was fantastic. And we were making his way to exits, and then I looked onto stage at a final time, for my final time before I left. And fucking Noel Gallagher's there, because I recognised his shirt. He had this red, white, and blue striped, vertical striped shirt on, and he'd come back out, and he didn't get down on his knees, got down on his haunches, and he was just looking out as room cleared. And a few of us clocked him and walked back over to where he was, beside at stage. And I mean, there were a few people saying stuff to him, but he looked fucking flabbergasted. He looked like he didn't realise what had gone on. As if, how could he have filmed this room? I didn't think he'd read the country, or he'd read the young people in the country, and how everybody were ready for fucking summer to get behind. The young people were ready for something to get behind. They were sick of these conservatives. They were sick of this fucking 80s music that were being spoon-fed in his teens. That fucking Spandau Ballet, Duran Duran, bullshit. You know, these were just fancy boys from Birmingham and fucking London that men in the north, could not get behind because that wasn't our life. But now you've got 4 lads from a council estate in North who just picked up some drumsticks and picked up some drums and got a microphone and had a fucking bash and fucking made something that we were all ready to get behind. And the fucker looked flabbergasted. He really did. And I think, I won't know, I've never met him. I'd probably never get that chance to ask him that question. But I think he sort of knew in that moment what were coming. Because we did. Everybody in that room that saw him and went walking back to the stage, we knew what were coming. We were all fucking behind you. And I think he'd just come out to see if it were real. And then people just fucking shouting and making stupid fucking noises. And he'd realised he'd been seen and he just made his way off into wings. And he were gone. But for me, that concert was somebody pressed the play button for me. I was 23 years old, just gone 23, and the play button had just been pressed, and it was right, the fucking bar is open, the party is in full swing. These next 2 or 3 years are going to be legendary for any northerner, male or female, in the early to mid 20s. This was the fucking time. This was the time. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Sat in that bin wagon in early 90s in fucking rain in Bradford, watching people throw garbage in the back of my bin wagon, listening to In Excess on radio, and they were handing out tickets for Roundhay Park, and I'm thinking, is this my fucking band? Is this the band I'm going to have to get behind? And it wasn't. That's when we knew. That's when everybody knew. And when the 90s got into full swing and it were fucking great, there's bangers on the fucking radio. Every fucking song is a banger. And I'd see people from school pushing prams thinking, oh, you're missing out on this. I feel sorry for you, you're missing out. The fact that you were getting off with women and making sure you were practicing safe sex because you didn't want to get anybody pregnant, because you didn't want a kid to ruin this fucking experience that everybody were having. Even that you were wary of. We're fucking great. Now, fast forward to 2018. 2018? Yeah, 2018. Duncan, my old co-host on this fantastic show that I bring you, he decides to move down to Sushi and he imports a load of these Lopifit bikes. Now, if you don't know what a Lopifit bike is, it is a bike that you walk on like a treadmill. It's electric. And what he was planning on doing is opening a tour guide place down here in Kamakura where you go and see all these sites on these Lopifit bikes. Great idea. Fucking great idea. So he asked for my help. So he got these bikes imported to his place. He got one of them imported to his place in Tokyo, in Shibuya. And he sent the rest down to me because we were going to be moving down here. So I had 5 Lopifit bikes out in my garden, and there were one up in Tokyo. So I went up and got that one from Tokyo, and I rode it down. I rode the 40Ks down here. And then we started looking to what we could do to build this and get people on. Now, I had seen a thing that the then England's #1, Joe Hart, were doing at the time. and it was designing a selfie guide app where you could go to various monuments, various places around the world, and then you'd go into this app and it'd tell you the best place to stand to get a selfie at this landmark. And I thought, that's fucking handy. That'd come in handy here. So I looked more into it and I found the person that had gone into business with him. And it was a woman called Sharon Latham. And now she was a photographer at Manchester City, which is how she got pally with Joe Hart. So I got in touch with her in Japan. I said, right, I'm coming home in, I think it was 2018, maybe. I said, anyway, I met up with her in a library in Manchester, right off at road from Midland Hotel, I think it is. Now I had I had about an hour to kill in Manchester before I met her. And my kids were small at the time, so we went and had a look. We had a look at Midland Hotel. And we've got nice hotels in Bradford, nice old Victorian hotels, but you went in here and it was just different. I mean, the north of England is grey, grim, the weather's not good. But you sort of went into this hotel and it were glorious. It were beautiful. It were beautiful. It just made you feel nice, made you feel better. It were like Bradford on steroids, this hotel. So we were sat in the lobby and I was telling kids, look at this roof, look at it all. They were too young. They didn't know what was going on. So I went back into the library and then this huge personality of a woman came into the library. Now I didn't know her from Adam apart from talking to her on Instagram. She gave me this big hug, towering above me, and she sat down. Now I had a phone, she had a phone, the kids had note, and I needed to have a chat with this woman, but I needed the kids to be occupied. So I give the kids my phone, and it wasn't long before they started arguing. And she saw this, and she just, quick as a flash, handed her phone over to my daughter, Sophia. And we got chatting. She told me all about herself. And then we got chatting about the app. You know, Duncan's wife would do the translation. You know, next time you come over here, you take the photos in the locations where you want to take them. I put her in touch with Duncan because what were happening while I were in England, she were flying over to Japan for the first time, and Noel Gallagher were playing at Summer Sonic. He were headlining in Osaka and then in Tokyo. And I said, well, when you're in Tokyo, meet with Duncan. He'll take you around Tokyo and he'll show you the sights. And you take your photos, you get your coordinates for the best places to take a selfie at these locations, and then you put it into your app. And it was a fucking nothing burger that I did for her. Nothing. Anyway, she flew over, she saw Duncan, did this, that, and the other. Excuse me. Now, after meeting her, she ups and she leaves. And I've never told her this. And if she listens to this, she'll know what I mean. I sat down and I had to have a couple of minutes because I'd never met anybody like that before in my entire life. When you're meeting somebody who is the Manchester City photographer, she is Noel Gallagher's travelling photographer. She goes all around the world with him, taking photos of him when he's on tour. When those two things are the fucking least interesting thing about your life, you can see just what an interesting person that I've just met. And as soon as I wrestled my phone off the kids, I messaged Duncan and I said, you've got to meet this chick. And I waited for him to message me back. And I just laid it out in front of him, about the app, about what she told me about her life. And, she's going to be over in Japan next week with Noel Gallagher. Show her about, and we can use this app with the tour guiding. And I left it at that. And Duncan told me later, I said, I saw it. What, really? Really? You've got to meet this chick, really? Anyway, week later, I get a message back. He's going, fuck me. Everything you sent to me is true. And he was just as much blown away by her as I were. And I'm not gonna tell you about stuff that's gone on in her life or out like that. You can find her work on Instagram. You can buy her work. Go and buy her prints. She's amazing at her job. So I kept in touch with her. I saw her again in 2019, and then we were arranged to meet, and then fucking COVID it. So nobody's going on tour. Nobody's doing fuck all. The powers that be above us all fucking locked us down for 2 years in Europe, 3 years here, fucking 3 years here. How much caution they use here. Locked down for 3 years. So you don't see anybody. You couldn't go home. So then I went home this year in 2023. But my dates didn't line up. And Sharon were away in America on tour with Noel. So I couldn't see her. But she said to me, I'm going to be here in December. No, she didn't say to me. I saw that Noel Gallagher was going to be here in November. I think I'm going to be here in December. I think I saw that in September. And I messaged her, are you coming? Are you coming? Because she's now got the Burnley job. She's Burnley's photographer. And I was thinking, I don't think that Burnley will let her go to work with Noel. Anyway, she said, I don't know yet. I don't know if I can come over. So I'm thinking, oh, fucking hell, you've got to come over. Anyway, in early November, I get a message. I'm coming to Japan. I said, oh, that's fucking great. She said, do you want me to get you tickets? I said, I'm not bothered about the tickets. Me and the big man, me and Duncan just want to see you. We just want to see you while you're here. We want to get you down here to Kamakura and show you around here. We don't give a fuck about the tickets. Anyway, the way that stuff lined up so perfectly. So she flies over. She says, I've got Wednesday off. And I looked at my schedule. My Wednesday work had cancelled that day. I wasn't doing anything till 8 o'clock at night. I says, I've got the afternoon off as well. So I booked the afternoon off. And she came down to Kamakura. Now, you think in November the 30th, anywhere else in the Northern Hemisphere, it's going to be fucking freezing. She just left England and it were -3. She racks up in Kamakura, it's 17. 17. I mean, I'd got a jacket on, but halfway through, I took it off. It was t-shirt weather. So she gets off at Kita Kamakura and we go straight into Engaku-ji. Now, we're walking tradesman's entrance because I don't have to pay. I know people in Engaku-ji. So as I'm walking in, a monk comes through with his car, and I've never seen this monk before. And he's saying, what are you doing coming in through this way in Japanese? So I'm explaining to him in my limited Japanese that, I work at the temple. I work with the top monk and his wife and his kids. And off he drove. Now, when you're speaking shitty Japanese, if somebody comes here that just speaks no Japanese, They think you're fucking fluent. Now, just as an admission now, I let Sharon think that I'm fucking fluent when I'm not at all. But it's not a lie. It's not a white lie. Is it fuck? Anyway, we walked around Engaku-ji, and having come from Tokyo, and especially if you are a tourist here in Japan, if you're spending your time in Tokyo, there are these places, there are these pockets around Tokyo where you can go and have a bit of calmness and serenity, but you've always got that sound of traffic or tourists in background. Whereas if you come here, you've got the quiet, you've got the temples. So this Engaku-ji, immediately she's like, look at this fucking place. Now, what she didn't know was that Engaku-ji is the least impressive thing on the places I were taking her to. So we did Engaku-ji, went into the temples there. She saw the ceiling with a dragon on. I took her up to the main temple complex at the top. We ran into we ran into the top monk and his daughter, who I work with, and it were all nice. So I said to her, look, we can either get the train into Kamakura, or we can walk over the hill and you can see Kamakura at its best. I said, because if you walk there, the place where I want to be is halfway between where we are now and the station. So if you go to the station, you're coming back on yourself, or if we just go over the hill, it's a 20-minute walk. And it's not much of an hill. So we're taking this walk. And she's telling me she's moving into a new house and all that sort of stuff. And I was talking back to when I first met her in library in Manchester, and she was telling me about her life, and she just turned to me. She said, "Oh, fucking sorry about that. I shouldn't be doing that. I'm sorry about." And I had to stop her. I said, "Look, you've changed my life in ways that you'll never know, because the things that she was telling me lit a fucking light under me, thinking, you've been fucking worrying about upsetting people, about trying to get in touch with your real parents." And after that conversation, I started the fucking ball rolling to find out where I'd come from, because my mother didn't like me talking about that shit. She'd go into fits of tears and call me ungrateful. But it were her, Sharon, that lit the spark, and in turn, I got all information about my biological parents. And I was telling her this, and she's just, oh, I still feel a bit embarrassed about it. I said, you can't understand how much you've done for me. That conversation that we had, 6, 7 years ago, middle of Manchester. It was a conversation that changed my life, and it meant nothing to her. She was apologising about it. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, we walked up a hill, and then you take a left halfway downhill, and it leads you to the back of this temple complex. And you sort of walk in, you're outside, but you're surrounded by the temple walls. And then all of a sudden, Kamakura reveals itself, and you can see it all right down to the sea. And it's all in symmetry. So we stood at the top of these steps, and I looked at her. She's got her gob open. I was thinking of should I shut it? She was gobsmacked. Now, seeing somebody in that state of bewilderment is better than any money, anything. Seeing somebody looking around my neighbourhood flabbergasted is the best thing, because all this around here is all blasé to me. And she's come from Tokyo, to this, where it's all calm and serene and it's just temple upon temple upon temple. So then we walk down the steps, and they're a bit treacherous for a couple of people in the 50s. So, yeah, I'm holding on to handrail. I don't give a shit. I'll hold on to handrail. I don't want to go down those steps. So we get to the bottom, and she's taking everything on her iPhone. She's got this new iPhone. So she started at Engaku-ji just doing little clips here, little clips there. There's a little lad in a kimono. She's taking photos of him. There's the water park that's off to the left, taking little clips of that. And then we walk down the Emperor's Walkway, and I were explaining that how in the spring all this is cherry blossoms, and it sort of reaches over, and you have a job on seeing sky. She's like, it was just a little tiny thing. So we get to Kamakura Station. We've done Engaku-ji, we've done the main temple in Kamakura. And I said, right, let's get off to Daibutsu. Now, Daibutsu is the jewel in the crown. Kamakura, it's the big Buddha. So we get on the little Enoden line, and we had about 6 or 7 minutes before the train turns up, so we're having a chat again. And again, a couple of Northerners being able to talk in my own mother tongue. You don't get to do it that often. I can't even talk to my wife like this because she has a job on understanding me. But to talk to somebody, I mean, there's Duncan, there's Jamie here in Japan, and that's it really. The people that I see regularly. There's only those people that I can talk to like this. So having a Northerner come here that you can talk to. I mean, when my mate Kim came all those years ago, I could speak to her like this then. But it's great just to be able to talk like this in your normal accent. So we get on Enoden line, and it's all electric and quiet, and the clips are coming out. She's taking pictures of this, that, and the other. And I'm saying to her, look how close these houses are. She's amazed at it, that how close. And like I say, it's all fucking normal to me, this. But when you see somebody who comes here who isn't normal, it's great. It's great. So we get off the station at Hase, and we walk up to Daibutsu. Now, as we walk in, the big Buddha slowly reveals itself. So you walk in from the left, from the right of the Buddha as he faces you, and you walk past the trees, and the Buddha slowly reveals itself. And I said to her, right, I don't know how you're going to react to this, so I'm just going to let you do it. Are you the hard bit of Northern that'll just go there? Or are you one that'll be gobsmacked? So we walk in, and I said, just take it in first before filming it. So she walked in, and her eyes and her mouth are like, look at that, look at that. And then she just stopped for a while, just taking it all in. And then the professional brain clicks in, and she walks back and films it. But the initial part, she wasn't filming. So we went there, she was filming it, she got the photos of the big sandals that the Buddha was supposed to have walked here in, and then just plonked himself down in, went inside it. And there's no lights inside, you've just got the natural light. They open the windows at the back of the Buddha during the day, so you get the natural light in. But there's no electric light inside the Buddha. So as we're walking in, that northern thing, well, somebody put big light on. So we're in Big Buddha, we come out, she's doing clips here, clips there. And as we're walking out, she's telling me about when she lived in Los Angeles. Now, I've been to Los Angeles fucking, when I was 20, so that was 32 years ago. I was in Los Angeles, but I never went to Griffith Observatory. And she was saying that were my spot. And if I ever spend any time here, this would be my spot. Now, the Griffiths Observatory is a observatory that looks out over the whole of LA, and people go up there. And she said it's the only place where she felt the sense of calmness she does here that she felt there. And she would go there every night for sunset. And she said, yeah, this is the place that I would come to if I were living here. But yeah, to see somebody gobsmacked at everyday things that I see all the time, I get a little kick out of that. Don't get me wrong. Now, what I were going to do after Daibutsu, after the Big Buddha, I was going to get back on train and go through to Enoshima and go to Enoshima Island. Now, Enoshima Island is, you can look at it on Google Maps. It's like a Bond fucking villain place. But she had an online meeting with staff from Burnley Football Club, so she had to get back up to Tokyo. Now, I said, right, well, let's go to the beach. And she's like, what, we ain't beach? Because you couldn't see the beach from where we were in the temple. So, went to 7-Eleven, got some strawberry mochi, got a couple of hot coffees, and went to the beach as it were going into dusk. So we're eating this mochi, change your life, that fucking stuff. And I got her a Japanese sandwich. Now, for them who don't know, the Japanese conveni sandwich, egg salad, cheese salad, tuna and mayonnaise. Bourdain did a thing on it. I'll put a link in below about Bourdain and that clip. And I said to her with this sandwich, you've got to look at the sandwich, decide which you think is the worst one. Eat the worst one, what you think is the worst, and then eat the best one. I guarantee when you eat that first one that you think is worse, you think, oh, fuck, I wish I'd have left that till last. Then you'll eat the second one, and you, oh, no, I wish I'd have left this one till last. And then you'll eat the third one, and the third one will go, you know, any one of them three I could have left till last. And then when you eat the next one, you have one again, eat it in a different order. And after she'd got home, she's been home a week, 10 days now. I said to her, how did you eat it? And I forget which order she ate it in, but she had ones after and she ate it in a different order and thought the exact same. And those sandwiches will do that to you. And then, yep, off she went. Off she went up to Tokyo. I waved her off at Ofuna Station. And the next day, I took the lad up and I shit you not, the best seats in the house were laid on for us. The best seats in the house were laid on for us. And I've got my lad there with me watching a fella who, with his band, made the fucking 90s fun, provided us with anthems that I'll still sing today and I know word for word. And then because there were 4 rows in front of me, then there were a big gap, leg room, and then there were my seats. And I was dead on with microphone that Noel was singing into. Halfway through concert, he picks out a fella that was stood next to me in a Stone Roses t-shirt, bloke from London, starts chatting to him. That's how close I was. That's how close I was. She'd set us up with these fantastic tickets. And as much as I loved going to that concert, as much as I loved spending time with my kid at a concert and bonding with him, his first gig is Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds. He didn't know. He doesn't know who Noel Gallagher is. He doesn't know the High Flying Birds. He has a bit of an understanding of who Oasis were. But I don't think he understood just how big this experience was. And I clocked Sharon right up front with a camera. I pick Jean up, I give her a wave, she gives me a quick wave back, gets back to it. That's the last time I saw her in Japan. It's the last time I saw her in Japan. Now, during that time that I took her out round Kamakura, I had my podcast stuff in my bag. And I was thinking, should I just say, shall we make a podcast out of this? Yeah, I had my pod track here. I had all this with me. I had my couple of mobile microphones, and I was going to do a just passing through tourist edition. But I thought, no, I don't want to do that. Anyway, I've spoke to her since, and she's up for doing it when I'm back in England. So watch this space. And what I'll say to you is, I'll put links below. Go to her Insta, go to her website, buy her shit. Every photograph that you see that's of any quality of Manchester City before last season were all her work. All of Burnley this season is her work. Just go check it out. Buy her shit. Let's blow her up bigger than she is now. And I will talk. Will I talk about the gig? The gig were kind of the cherry on top. The cherry on top. It were great. And I'll thank her for that when I see her in person again. I thanked her as I'm walking back to the station. You know, it was fucking great and I loved it. And she is one of the most interesting people I have ever met. And I'll see her in the summer. And I'll see you next time. So, like and subscribe. The pressure of not having to work with these fucks anymore is gradually dispersing from me. And I'm looking forward to the freelance life. And I'll see you again very soon with this positive demeanour. I'm on holiday. I'm going to go abroad in a few weeks. And we'll have another podcast from a different country. See you soon. Adios, people.